staff. First, Ms. Herzog, Mr. Carson, Mr. Carrington, Mr. Cobb has said in his testimony that the HUD Inspector General invited anyone to come forward who had anything bad to say about Mr. Cobb. He complained bitterly about the procedures of the HUD Inspector General and the PCIE report generally. Were you invited to come forward and make complaints, or did you step forward on your own?
I was contacted by the HUD OIG and mentioned that they wanted to interview me as part of that. My name had come up in several conversations with other people that had been interviewed, and they wanted to talk to me as part of the investigation.
Okay, Mr. Carrington, excuse me.
Yes, no, sir, I was not invited. I was contacted and asked to speak.
Okay, how about you, Ms. Hart? Sorry.
The HUD investigators contacted me.
Okay. Mr. Cobb also says that the staff was unhappy with him because he was insisting on higher standards for the Office of the Inspector General. Do you agree with that? Do you agree that the standards set by Mr. Cobb were higher? Ms. Herzog?
No, I don't think they were higher at all, and I'm not sure what the standards were. In fact, whenever reports or documents were prepared and Mr. Cobb was unhappy with them, if any of us tried to get from him what it was he was looking for, you know, what is it you want? His response was, I'll know it when I see it.
Okay. Mr. Carson, Mr. Carrington, did you think the standards in the OIG's office were higher under Mr. Cobb or lower under Mr. Cobb?
Having spent almost 16 years there, in a very the organization was very professional, very responsive to the concerns of the Congress when we had special requests. I believe the standards were lowered.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I think that I recall that he did have high standards. I won't doubt him there. But the standards, the bar was set so high it was impossible to reach, to the point where things didn't happen. I recall him saying, "I don't go into any type of issue without 4 aces in my hand." And so we were never going to reach the standard that he had set for me.
Okay. A lot of the testimony from the three of you in particular has been with going to the personal abusive relationship that Mr. Cobb had with his staff. There are people like that in the world. Some of them become bosses. Many people have worked for bosses who appear to go through life on full flame, as appears to be the case with Mr. Cobb, but are still able to get their work done. Was this different? Were you able to get your work done, or did his conduct interfere with getting the work done, and how? Ms. Herzog, you can start.
I think at least I was able to get my work done eventually. I did find those occurrences disturbing, and at times, particularly on the last occasion when he practically came across the table at me, I took the next day off of work. I mean, I was shaking when I walked out of his office. It was horrible. And I have to say, I've been yelled at by the best of them. You know, I've appeared in federal court before judges who, lawyers like to commonly say, think they're the closest thing next to God, maybe other than Congress people.
We don't hold a candle to judges.
Right. And you know, I've had my life threatened. I've been in protective custody. I've been stalked by a man that I've prosecuted. I have been under all kinds of stress, and in stressful situations. I have never experienced anything like what I experienced when Mr. Cobb went on one of his, I hesitate to call them rampages, but.
Okay. I know my time is expected to expire, but Mr. Cobb apparently told the staff and told the HUD IG and has told our staff in preparing and looking into the matter that he wanted a collaborative relationship with the management of NASA, that he believed he would get the recommendations of the IG's office implemented. He'd be more likely to get them implemented if he had a cooperative, collaborative relationship, if he were part of the team. Was that, and that seems to be very much contrary to what Ms. Bryan and Dr. Light have said is what Congress intended in the Inspector General Act of 1978. But was it your experience that the recommendations of the IG's office got implemented more readily because of Mr. Cobb's good relationship with Mr. O'Keefe or others?
In the Safety Directorate, our reports were being rewritten, changed, revised, rewritten, changed, revised. The process was to the point of being insane. We couldn't even get recommendations or reports out the door that we had previously never had an issue with. As I mentioned in my statement, 2 times report of the year, special request from the Safety and Mission Assurance Associate Administrator, from this committee, for the House Science Committee, and we couldn't even get reports out the door.
Okay. Mr. Carrington?
Ours was a little different, and I used a different process when getting reports out. The IG Act required us to notify the Department of Justice, the Attorney General. So when allegations came in, we immediately started working with them and enjoined cases with the FBI. And so our cases took a little different, our reports took a little different road. So anything that did come through, it was very difficult to get the report out in any possible time frame.
Ms. Herzog?
Yeah, for most of the time I was there, worked for Mr. Carrington, and at the time he left and I was acting, I tried to implement some procedures that made it a little easier, and they actually ended up overcomplicating things because they were not quite accepted at face value. I really don't have an answer to that question.
Okay. Just one more. Mr. Carson, in your testimony before the HUD IG, you described the relationship with Mr. Cobb, Mr. O'Keefe, and Mr. Pasterik.
Yes.
As the Holy Trinity. What was the origin of that phrase? Was that your phrase?
No, it wasn't my phrase. It was a phrase that I had heard used by various officials and employees in NASA headquarters that referred to those three as the Holy Trinity. No, I did not originate that. That was just something I had heard numerous times.
What did it mean?
It meant that basically everything in the agency went through those 3 individuals.
Okay.
It was inferred that they ran the agency.
Ms. Herzog, did you hear that phrase, and what did you understand it to mean?
Well, I never actually quite knew what the Holy Trinity was. I'm Jewish.
Okay.
Which wasn't repertoire, but I did understand that it meant, I believed it meant the people in power and aligned in power.